Diseases came out of nowhere, one by one, like an out-of-control fire caused by a single match. Outbreaks and epidemics became household terms from city to city. I was a member of the disease control team. Our goal was simple: to cure the 4 different evils that plagued our planet, and maybe even eradicate them. But we lost lives like cards drawn from a devilish deck, and most importantly, we lost hope. Now it's just a matter of time before the human race gives up its blinking moment of life. I record this journal even though it will gain no audience. We started as a team, but failure divided us. This is my last message. My name is Jane Tripp.
Help me, please.
Are you infected?
Please help.
Are you infected?
Sorry about that. Feeling much better now. Thank you. Have a good day.
What? What?
Hello gamers, welcome to another episode of Dice Camera Action. My name is John Bove, and today I'm going to be reviewing Pandemic. Pandemic comes from Z-Man Games and is a cooperative game for 2 to 4 players. In the game, you and your friends work together on a disease control team trying to find the cure for 4 different diseases wreaking havoc on the world. Before I get into that, let's take a look at the components. The game comes with 5 pawns, 6 research stations, 6 markers, 96 disease cubes, 59 player cards, 48 infection cards, 5 roll cards, and 4 reference cards. Overall, the quality of the components are really good. The board has a nice matte finish, the cards are plasticky, and I think they'll last quite a while. The only issue I have is that some of the colors don't match. The medic pawn doesn't really match the medic card, and the red cubes don't really match the red disease on the board. The board looks a little orange. So overall, I definitely think the components of Pandemic are worth the price. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how you set up the game. To set up Pandemic, start by randomly drawing roll cards. In this game, we're going to do a 3-player game with the Scientist, Dispatcher, and Operations Expert. Take the corresponding pawns and place them on Atlanta, because that's where the CDC is, and also place a research station there as well. Then place the infection rate marker on the starting space, as well as the outbreak marker. Finally, put the cure bottles on the bottom underneath the 4 diseases. Now take the player deck and shuffle it, drawing 3 cards per each player in a 3-player game. This will make up each player's hand. It's important to note that there is a hand limit of 7 cards. If you ever exceed 7, you must discard the excess cards. Now separate the player deck into 5 separate piles for a normal difficulty game. You're going to place an epidemic card on each of these piles, and then shuffle them in. It's good to put the bigger piles on top because that'll make your game a little bit easier. Now you should shuffle the infection deck, which I've already done. Then you're going to draw the top 3 cards. You're going to place 3 cubes of the correct color on those cities. So 3 in Ho Chi Minh City, 3 in Seoul, and 3 in Algiers. Now you draw the next 3 cards and place 2 cubes on those cities. Finally, you draw 3 more and place 1 cube on each city. Now you do not shuffle these cards back into the deck. The player who is most recently sick will go first. Now let's move on to gameplay. On your turn, you're going to take 4 actions, draw 2 cards, and then play the role of the infector. Let's go ahead and take a look at what actions you can take on your turn. In Pandemic, there are multiple basic actions you can take. You can drive/ferry, which is to move 1 space. You can take a direct flight, which is where you fly to a card. So if I discard Santiago, I can go straight there. Or you can take a charter flight. If I was already there, I could discard Santiago and fly anywhere in the board. There's also shuttle flight, where you fly between research stations. And finally, you can pass as an action. There are also a bunch of special actions you can take in Pandemic. You can build a research station by discarding the city that you are currently on. In this case, White could discard London to build one. You can discover a cure for a specific disease by discarding 5 cards of that color. When you cure a disease, you take the token for that disease and place it on the corresponding space. You can also treat disease or remove 1 cube as an action. If the disease has already been cured, it only costs 1 action to remove all the cubes from that space. If you ever remove all the cubes of a cured disease, that disease is eradicated. Cubes for that disease will no longer be placed on the board, even when drawn in the infector phase. Finally, there is the share knowledge action, which is where you transfer one card between you and a friend. The card transferred has to be the current city that you are on. Let's go through an example turn. The white player is going to take a direct flight to Lima, where he will then drive one space to Santiago, and he's going to share knowledge by trading Santiago with the pink player. Finally, he's going to treat the disease and remove one cube. Now you will draw 2 cards. In Pandemic, there are actually 3 types of cards: cities, events, and epidemics. Event cards are one-time use and don't cost an action. I'll cover epidemics in a moment. The last thing you do on your turn is play the Infector. You're going to draw cards equal to the infection rate. At this point, it's 2. I drew Paris and Jakarta. I'm going to place 1 cube on each city. However, if the city already has 3 cubes, there would be an outbreak. So let's say I drew Algiers. I would place 1 cube of that color in each surrounding city and move the outbreak meter up 1. An outbreak can cause multiple outbreaks. If you ever get to 8 outbreaks, you lose. Now let me explain epidemics, which you can draw during the draw 2 phase of your turn. The first thing you do when you draw an epidemic is increase the infection rate by 1. As you go down the line, you're increasing the number of cards that you will draw. You take the bottom card of the infection deck and you place 3 cubes on that city. In this case, it would be London. You then place this on top of the discard pile and shuffle the infection discard pile. These cards then go on top of the infection deck. You would now do the final phase of your turn, which is playing the Infector with a much higher chance of getting multiple outbreaks. And that's basically the game. Let me explain the different roles in the game that you can have. The operations expert can build a research station anywhere, and it doesn't cost him a card. The scientist only needs 4 cards to discover a cure. The medic removes all cubes on a space for 1 action, even if it's not cured. If a disease is cured, the medic can remove those cubes without paying any actions. The researcher can give any card when sharing knowledge. It does not have to be the city he is on. Finally, the dispatcher may move other player pawns on his turn. He may also move a pawn to any city that contains another pawn. This all requires player permission, of course. And those are the rules. Victory is achieved in Pandemic when you and your friends discover all 4 cures. However, you can lose in a couple ways. If you need to draw cubes and there are no more cubes left, you lose. If you need to draw cards and there are no more cards left, you lose. And finally, if you reach 8 outbreaks, you lose. I hope you don't lose. Drawing cards equals luck, so some games in Pandemic may just feel like they're completely against you. However, in my experience, I've always felt like I had somewhat of a chance, and of course sometimes I've won. The other issue comes with cooperative games. They always run the risk of having one player try to control all the actions. You just need to know that going in. Pandemic costs about $35 and is definitely worth the price. It is a fun and strategic game that is bound to get new gamers interested in the hobby. It has the perfect length and an awesome theme. I definitely think you should check out Pandemic. Well, that's all I have for today, gamers. Thank you so much for watching. Check the description below for a link to my Facebook, Twitter, email, and Board Game Geek collection. And definitely let me know what games you want to see reviewed. Until next time.